Would we describe it as a grudge match with Lauren? Probably would at this point. This is probably the most needle that we've had in a build-up for you, I would say. I'm not really seeing that fiery side to you. Have you enjoyed the pre-fight build-up for this? You've had that face-to-face recently as well that's been broadcast on Sky.
Yeah, I think it is what it is. It's not really... I think a lot's been made and kind of a little bit forced of a like a grudge thing, because there is, not from me anyway, there is no real grudge. I have responded to, things that she said. But yeah, I think, if you look at Michaela Meyer and Baumgartner, if you look at Clarissa and Savannah, there isn't that kind of natural story where there is a grudge and there is something that, they both don't like about each other. But yeah, I think it's it'll all be sorted on the night, and the best woman will win. You
guys just want to prove who's better, don't you? That's what it's coming down to. It's that real competitive energy. Neither of you's backing down. You both believe you're the better fighter. What do you make of her when she says that she believes she's going to win every round? I know you said you kind of think that she's trying to almost convince herself that she's going to do that. It's almost too much pressure going into a fight. She's asking for perfection from herself.
Yeah, I think my personal belief is that a lot of things that she says is very repetitive, and it's like, I don't know whether that's like a PR thing that she's worked on to keep talking about the same thing, or whether that's her trying to convince herself. But she keeps on saying the same thing. So, yeah, I mean, it is what it is.
How much do you read into those face-to-face interactions with fighters, specifically with Lauren as well? Because there are moments when it does kind of look like you're both trying to get under each other's skin, and I think she took it personally when you've said a couple of times there were bigger fights that you wanted, but you had to settle with this one. Do you feel like that's maybe the thing that's got under her skin the most, would you say?
Maybe. I mean, you'd have to ask her, maybe. But in my honest opinion, that's the truth. So I don't think, I'm not just wildly saying things. I honestly do believe them. I do think, and she's admitted, like, I will be the biggest name on her record, and I don't think she's the biggest name on mine. I still think, win next week and Michaela Meyer is still my best win. I don't think that Lauren's better than that. So, and that's just, I mean, it's not gospel, it's just what I believe.
How would you compare your mindset heading into this one to previous fights? Do you feel like you've been training with more spite, considering there is that little bit more animosity compared to previous fights? And how do you see you guys gelling and matching up in there? Do you feel like it's going to be a really exciting fight?
I think the first few rounds are going to be very important, because she's going to have to answer them questions, like she says. You're going to win in every round, and what happens when you don't? And then I think every camp is slightly different because of the person who's in front of you. No, I know, between myself, Sandy Ryan, Michaela Meyer, and Lauren, we are probably the elites of the division, and there's not much that separates us. So it's always going to be close. It's always going to be hard fought. It's more than just a fight of his box or whatever. There's got to be a lot of IQ behind it and tactic. So yeah, it will always be close, but yeah, I just think I'm better, and that'll be the outcome.
Do you feel like there's no pressure on you? Do you feel like the pressure's all on her, because you've described the way that maybe her team kind of want it as a changing of the guard? Definitely her team want that, obviously. You are in your absolute prime right now. Joe's been talking about retirement for like 3 years, and you're just throwing that back in his face every year. So you've been beating the odds for a long time. You like that underdog mentality that you've adopted, because you're just proving people wrong year in, year out. What does it feel like for you? Do you kind of agree with what I've said there?
No, 100%. It's definitely seen as like a passing of the baton, and I think even the odds of her favourite, the odds favour her, but that just takes the pressure off me and adds more pressure to her. You're doing all these things that you say you can do, and everyone thinks that you can do it. Then you've got to go out and prove it. I'm the person that says, okay, we'll see, and I don't think you can.
What do you actually make of her as a person as well, outside the ring?
Yeah, I've got no issues with her. She's not really someone I'm very close to, but at the same time, there's never been any issues. I've always wished her well, and I've always spoken highly of her, I think. But yeah.
What would you say is the driving force for you at this point of your career? You want a couple more fights, probably a couple more super fights after this one. Is it getting revenge over Katie Taylor? Is that the driving force to get to that fight at some point?
I think more so is to prove myself right. And I've long gone are the days where I'm trying to justify myself to everyone and you know, trying to prove them wrong. I'm just trying to prove myself right. And yeah, Katie Taylor, I know, is an option potentially after Lauren, but I have to beat Lauren first, so that's the drive.
And it's an all-women's card, very historic in the build-up to International Women's Day. Just talking about where women's combat sports has come from and how far it's come in the past 10 to 15 years. 15 years, I'd say, really. It's been incredible to see. How proud are you to be one of the spearheaders of that, one of the people leading from the front line for the last 15 years? And have there been a lot of scenarios where the younger fighters on the cards that you've fought on have come to you and said how inspiring you've been for them as well?
Yeah, I think the most notable story for that is Chloe Watson. Yeah. I remember I've always been very close to me PE teacher in me senior school. The simple way that she helped change my life and push towards professional sports, and I think she called me and said, there's this young girl here, you know, she really loves boxing, she reminds me so much of you, you know, a bit of the maths teacher's nightmare but the PE teacher's dream. Need you to come and have a little word with her, because she is, like, you know, maybe getting into a bit more trouble than she should. And I went and had a good conversation with Chloe, giving me Olympic top, and said, when you box for GB, I want yours. Wow. And, you know, it was a couple of years later that she phoned me and said, I need you to come into the school. And Chloe had a little England top ready to give me. So, and now she's on the undercard of the March the 7th in the Royal Albert Hall. So, yeah, things comes and swings and roundabouts, and it's great to see that. It's great to see the progression. You know, I'm very close with Jane Couch, and all the stories that she tells me about how, you know, how it was for her, and like I can't relate to that, and that's the way that sport should be. It should move on, it should progress, it should get better, and hopefully the things that we went through, even as amateurs, I see it. You know, we didn't have kits. We couldn't always get to tournaments because there wasn't funding. There was maybe you'd box once or twice, and you'd have to go open in your division because there wasn't that many females. And now you see schoolgirls, you see females, you see the youth. You know, there's a clear pathway to get to them England and GB squads if you want to, and there's also a clear pathway and a career that you can make out of being a professional, which wasn't always the case.
You know, rising to the top of the sport in the way that you have, and becoming a high-profile athlete, there was always going to be that scenario, like you mentioned with Chloe, where at this point in your career, you'll have inspired the next generation. Does it kind of like melt your brain, the impacts that you've had on people that you don't know until you've met them, and then you've met them years later and seen they're in a position you were maybe 10 years ago?
Yeah, I think when you're an athlete, like, it's very like tunnel vision. Like, I'm just focused on myself, and I'm trying to get the results I need to get to the next step, or get to the next tournament, or win the next belt, or whatever it is. And I don't really think about the impact. The only time I've ever stopped and looked back is like stopping to look back at 2012, yeah, and the impact that had. And it's only then that I appreciate it. So I probably will never appreciate the effects of the pro game until I stop and I look back. So yeah, you just never. I mean, I get kids in school, I get people, you know, as I'm walking around and saying, you know, how great I am for Liverpool and talk stuff, and for women and for mums and you know, all kinds. But it's great to hear that, don't get me wrong, but that I'm just trying to be the best version of me. So to get all them comments is great, but that's not really that I look to. But it's only when you stop and look back that you appreciate it, and that you think of the effect, but you don't always have time to do that because you're so focused on actually being in the now.
Finally, Joe Gallagher is probably the best teammate and coach you could ask for. He goes above and beyond for all of his fighters. Just describe that relationship you have built together over the years and what it means to you to have him in your corner.
Yeah, it's coming up to... well, I've known Joe a long time. Obviously, when he was training with the Smiths, I was going to their fights, and he used to bring some of them up to the GB squads when I was on there. So it wasn't... When I first joined Joe, it wasn't someone starting afresh, and I'd never been coached by him before, but it was someone that I half knew. That has developed into a dad figure. And yeah, he's just always had my best interest at heart. He doesn't mind playing the baddie when he needs to. He doesn't mind deflecting the pressures off me when I need to. And obviously his news recently is hit me hard. We have developed a very good relationship, and it's more than just a coach and a fighter. He's a very good friend and someone that, is like an extended family member. So yeah, it's an added motivation for this fight as well. And yeah, he's an all-round good guy, but people don't always necessarily get to see that side of him because he likes to play the baddie. He doesn't mind playing the baddie. You mentioned the news that's hit you. It's massively upsetting for everyone in the boxing and sport community, but when you go downstairs and see the passion that he's got for all of his fighters, that's driven him throughout his whole life, this sport. Just talk about the dedication that he's got for you guys, for the sport in general. That has driven him so far in his life. Yeah, I think I think that I make sacrifices, but I make sacrifices for 10 and 12 weeks, whatever the camp is. And then, I can have whatever time off, and then I come back when I want to. And, when I've finished my camp, so we've been in camp with Mo, and then he jumps into my camp. Then after me, there's, I think Lawrence, and then after that, there's somebody else, and he just doesn't stop. But I also think that's what keeps him motivated and driven and focused. And without boxing and without the stress, some people are comfortable in chaos, and I think that's Joe.
100%.
So I think he loves being distracted by things, but he always says he can never want it more than you, and I do think that's true. As much, but that passion and that belief that he's got in you, it spreads, and you can't help but absorb it and feed off it, and and he does try and break you. There's been times when I've seen Lawrence in the gym lose it, and I can see he's lost it, and I think, yeah, I've been there, and I've said to them, Lawrence, don't worry about it, we've all been there, because it is true. There's just times when you're just what are you doing and stuff, but I know he's doing it for good reasons, and
make you stronger.
Exactly, yeah, and to test where breaking point, to see if you've got the minerals that it's going to take, because things in boxing aren't easy, and there's going to be rounds that are really tough, and there's going to be times when you need that resilience to pick yourself up, dust whatever rounds have gone, and keep a cool head. So yeah, he tries to bring it out at them both in you, but it's not always sometimes what you want at that moment. But like I say, he's a brilliant coach, he gets the results, and yeah, he's a good guy.
Appreciate the time. Just tell us what we can expect April 7th. What's going to happen?
March.
Oh, sorry, March. March, we're not April yet.
Yeah, it's something different. Yeah, I think it's going to just be a good fight, a great card, head to toe. There's lots of championships, lots of defending of belts. There's a newcomer, Cindy Ngamba, who's not a stranger to me and sparring. I think, Kirsty Bavington as your debut, I think that oozes confidence and sets her intent on what she wants to do in the pros. I think she's definitely one to look for. She's got a fan-friendly style, that I think people will appreciate. You know, Caris and Raven, another great fight. You've seen Raven recently challenge for a world title, was unsuccessful, but we'll know. I mean, you can't always compare, but you'll know whether Caris is ready for them that level, which I think she is. And yeah, myself and Lauren, great fight. She thinks it's a battle of youth and old. I think it's a battle of experience and IQ.